Well, unless you live under a rock, or in a cave, or under a rock in a cave, whoa, you've definitely heard about the story we're talking about first today. Donald Trump was arrested and arraigned yesterday, making history, probably not the history he wanted to have made, as he's now in the habit of doing. But I'll walk you through the sights and sounds, of course. But because y'all have been watching these very videos likely for a bit, as this has been breaking news, I'll go quickly and then get right to the analysis. First, though, here's him entering the courthouse from an aerial view.
And there he is.
And
waving to the crowd.
There he is. We can see him here, Anderson. And his back is to us, and we can see him slowly walking
Shimon,
in.
we have an...
And then we will pick that up from a different angle.
From there, he'll go up to the 15th floor where he will await his arraignment, which should be in about 50 minutes from now. Again, we won't get a live look inside the courtroom, even though these are state charges, which would allow for cameras in the courtroom. The judge has agreed to a request from Trump's attorneys, Judge Merchan.
All right. So then he went in, and I'll show you just some quick photos from inside the courthouse. Boom, boom. Here's him walking out. That was him leaving Trump Tower. And there's that, looking a little defeated, gotta say. Little defeated. But now let's get to the specifics of the case, or at least kind of an overview, and we'll obviously talk much more about this as the days and weeks go by. First, here's Alvin Bragg making the announcement.
Donald Trump was arraigned on a New York Supreme Court indictment returned by a Manhattan grand jury on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records in the first degree. Under New York state law, it is a felony to falsify business records with intent to defraud and an intent to conceal another crime. That is exactly what this case is about. 34 false statements made to cover up other crimes. These are felony crimes in New York State, no matter who you are. We cannot and will not normalize serious criminal conduct.
All right. 34 felony counts being brought against Trump here from Politico. The 16-page indictment against Donald Trump accuses him of 34 felonies for allegedly falsifying business records in a bid to violate campaign finance laws. A bevy of charges setting in motion the first criminal prosecution of a former president in American history. Manhattan prosecutors allege that Trump concealed hush money payments by falsely labeling related transactions as legal expenses and by arranging for a tabloid publisher to bottle up the story of a woman who said she had a sexual relationship with Trump. In doing so, the prosecutors say Trump repeatedly violated a New York corporate record-keeping law and agreed to break campaign finance laws. So this all centers around, to do a little summary, all centers around, well, first, falsifying business records. That's at the core of this. But then what is being referred to as a catch and kill scheme by the Trump camp to find stories that could be damaging to Trump and kill them to make sure they don't come out publicly. And there are multiple that the Trump team were concerned with, one of them being the Stormy Daniels alleged affair. And so where falsifying business records comes in is Stormy Daniels got paid by Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen paid $130,000 to keep that story secret. And Trump, in paying back Michael Cohen, tried to make it look like legal expenses. And so falsifying business records by itself is a misdemeanor. But if you're falsifying business records to conceal another crime, that's when it becomes a felony. And that other crime would have to do with campaign finance law. Because with the catch and kill scheme, if you can develop this pattern, a clear intent to affect the election by the Trump team, finding these stories, trying to suppress them because they were damaging to Trump's campaign specifically, then it's clearly an effort to influence the election. And clearly, based on campaign and finance law, that would have to be identified as such, disclosed as such, if money's being spent. But it wasn't. And so then the falsifying business records would be trying to make it look like legal expenses, would be to cover up the fact that this money was being spent to influence an election, but wasn't being disclosed as such, thus giving you a felony. And the 34 counts comes from the various payments that were made, multiple being all to pay back the hush money payment to Stormy Daniels, paying back Michael Cohen. And the reason why the understanding of was this catch and kill scheme, was the Stormy Daniels hush money payment specifically to influence the election, or was it just Trump didn't want to be embarrassed? Because the defense likely will be Trump would have paid this money no matter what. You can't say he should have disclosed it as a campaign contribution or expenditure, because he would have spent it no matter what. But if the overall scheme, especially it seems there may be evidence to provide that clearly identifies this scheme as purely and solely because Trump was running for president, they were trying to find stories that would damage the campaign, and money was spent for that purpose, but wasn't disclosed. So that's kind of the case. That gives you a sense, and we will see how it all plays out. But one of the things that you'll notice, kind of watching mainstream media, pundits, even people who are pretty against Trump, seem to be saying, this case isn't strong, I was expecting more. But I'm going to show you an individual on CNN who disagrees with that analysis. And I found her analysis apt. Take a look.
Commentator and political anchor for Spectrum News, Errol Lewis, and CNN legal analyst and former Manhattan Chief Assistant District Attorney Karen Friedman Agnifilo. Thank you both for being here. Karen, let me just start with you. Your piece in the Times this morning with Norma Eisen is really interesting. The headline is, "We finally know the case against Trump, and it's strong." That's a different position than even some of Trump's most vehement opponents who say this is weak. I think we can agree it's incomplete, right? Because we don't know what that underlying crime is that Bragg is pointing to. But why do you think it's so strong?
I think it's strong because in addition to the indictment that was filed, they also filed a statement of facts, which
13 pages.
Yeah, 13 pages of a statement of facts, which really details the evidence and the charges and the theory of the case against him. And it's clear that they have a lot of corroboration here. You've got not just the word of Michael Cohen, you've got David Pecker, who was the CEO of AMI that owned the National Enquirer, and they had a conspiracy, the three of them, to catch and kill negative stories during the time of the presidential election. And they have proof. They have emails, text messages, recordings. And the timing really shows that that's the case. And so I think when you put it all together from an evidentiary purpose, I think it's a very strong case that, of course, there are legal arguments that can be made and challenges by the defense, and we haven't seen the witnesses testify under oath and be cross-examined yet. But that's typical of every case. Just from what we know now standpoint, it's certainly as strong as any other case that gets brought in state courts in New York.
And the whole point here, what makes this so good, is that it's showing no one's above the law. And if he violated crimes, even if you're saying, you don't think they're serious enough or whatever, no one's above the law. Even if you're a former president, the precedent should have been set a long time ago, but the opposite precedent was set, that you'll be held accountable just like everyone else. And one of the things I noticed in Bragg's statements is he's definitely trying to highlight, we have prosecuted this type of thing, not specifically election, all that, but with the falsifying business records many times. And We're going to treat Trump like we've treated everyone else, and that's key. Now, I've mentioned multiple times, this case is less significant than Trump's attempts to overturn the 2020 election. This case, if I had to pick one of them, which shouldn't be the way we do this, which it's not, to be the one Trump's held accountable for, it wouldn't be this over, again, Trump's attempts to overturn the 2020 election. But because accountability should be across the board, yes, in a less significant case, he could be held accountable, and in a more significant case, and hopefully that's what we'll end up seeing. And we'll let the process play itself out. If you're someone who thinks it's a really strong case, Trump's definitely going to end up being convicted, we'll watch the process play out. If you're someone who doesn't, we'll watch the process play out. That's just how it's going to go, and that is perfectly fine. And what we're seeing here is the system working as it should, which is not treating someone differently, as I said. One little note here that Yahoo News is highlighting: acting New York Supreme Court Justice Juan Merchant warned former President Donald Trump against using social media for violent ends after his arraignment hearing Tuesday, but stopped short of issuing any sort of formal gag order. So that was one of the questions: would a gag order be issued? It was not, but Trump was warned, don't be doing what you're doing on social media right now, which is Trump sending out true social death and destruction may be caused by his indictment. And obviously that is very dangerous. So we will see how it all plays out, as I said, and I'll be following it every step of the way. Make sure you are subscribed to this YouTube channel. Thank you so very much.